I'm going to show you how to use GPT-4 to generate some fake data. I'm going to ask it for some really complex data sets. I'm going to ask it for some geospatial data that represents locations of homeless shelters in the Los Angeles area. I'm going to test it to see if it has any understanding of where things are based off of any possible copies of the internet's information that it might have gathered. And then I want it to include dummy data that includes some made up information about the current residents in the shelter and the number of outreaches and the monthly budget that the shelter has to spend on its operating cost, and then how close it is to hospitals, addiction treatment centers, and grocery stores. So just like ballpark. So that is going to be interesting, and I gave it some kind of tricky ways to paint this data. And the last thing I'm going to say is I want this in a table format. So I'm going to see if this comes out and gives me a table of geospatial data or not. And it is giving me a disclaimer that it can't generate real geospatial data, but it will give me dummy data based off the requirements. So I'm getting a table built right here. And we see we have an ID, a lat long, current residence, how many outreaches it's done, a budget, and then the distance to these hospitals. And I have a suspicion that it probably will take these coordinates and then actually put them probably somewhere near Los Angeles, but it won't be exact. It'll like give me fake data, and I'll actually test that here to kind of see where that's at. But all in all, if I needed to do a project on this with this data, I could accomplish this. And what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to test this a little bit more, and I'm going to actually see how many other related tables I can get it to make with the lowest level of information possible. So we're going to test that now. So the prompt that I'm going to give next is actually going to say, hey, create a table of some nonprofits that donate to these shelters, and then just sort of make the data interesting and relevant to that, and give me about 8 to 12 attributes of data that provide data to the value to the other data set, right? And then I'm going to say, give me this data in table. And I think that it's going to already understand that because anytime I'm generating data, it's generally going to want to be in a table. And the original GPT-3 would sometimes mess up a lot. And instead of giving me in a table, it would go give it in free text, comma separated value, or it would give me like code, right? And it was not what I wanted. I wanted something like this. And we see here we have an organization ID, shelter ID, the name of the organization, the contribution, the focus area, the staff count, volunteers, board members, events per year, average event attendance, social media followers, and then their website traffic. So if I'm counting attributes, it looks like I've got 12, and there's like a primary key in there, so we'll call it 9. And that's pretty good. That's spot on, right in the middle of what I wanted. It's coming up with some really good names, right? And the data looks like this is some of the best dummy data, I could have thought of, right? And when you hook something like this up to be able to touch the internet and pull actual data, then, and do lookups and format it, that's where all this AI stuff is headed to. That's a really, really interesting situation that we find ourselves in. So I think this is really cool. This is definitely what I wanted. I think actually way more than this. So GPT-4 is definitely blowing GPT-3 out of the water. Very cool.